Welcome to Brown Girls Can, the podcast where black and brown brilliance meets real talk. This podcast is your safe space to be seen, heard, and of course, celebrated. I'm your host, Shateria, the founder and visionary behind the Brown Girls Can brand and movement. Every podcast episode, we're gonna laugh loud and dive deep into the stories, careers, and bold dreams of women who are redefining what's possible. Let's get into today's episode.
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Brown Girls Can, the podcast. Y'all know I'm your host, Shateria, and I'm joined in Denver, Colorado by someone so sweet, so special, Miss Kimberly Mathis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for
traveling and all that. So it's really sweet.
Yes. We're going to get into her book. She has two. But before we do that, y'all know we sip on the podcast. So we're going to take a cheers to a good episode.
Yes, cheers.
She told me she liked the Josh brand.
Try
it. That's good. The red blend. And I made sure we got the legacy.
Nice.
The legacy label.
Nice.
For Miss Kim, because you are doing some amazing things.
Girl, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's, just trying to feel God's purpose, for my life and just figuring out fully now what that is and what that means and stepping into it. So,
yes. All right. So before we get into this book, which I read, and it is, y'all ever read a book and it's like, this is a Tyler Perry movie. That's what Dope Girl was. Before we get into Dope Girl, y'all know we have a new game, Brown Girls Can combo cards.
Nice.
And so we're going to play. I'm going to, let's find a good topic.
Cool. Let me put my glasses on.
So let's do family and legacy or sisterhood and friendship.
Oh, wherever you want to go.
Okay, let's find.
Wherever you feel led. This is so cute. You created this?
I did for
Listen,
girls' night. For girls' night.
So cute. I will gift some folks those. I need a few of those. You have to show me where I can order.
I will. All right.
Okay. So is it like a little section of them, a series of cards? Oh, okay. I thought it was like, we picking. Oh, nice.
And if you don't want to answer that one, we'll pick again.
Okay.
So let me.
We just gonna jump right in head first. So it says, when did you feel misunderstood by your family, and how did you navigate it? Sis. Okay. That's a really good question. But I can answer that pretty distinctly. I felt misunderstood by my family early. And what I mean by that is probably in elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason why that distinction was so prevalent was because there was such a huge discrepancy between what my mother's side revered as values and then what my dad was showing me what were meaningful values.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I say polar opposites, right? I don't think my mom's family had different values because they didn't care, but they had very different circumstances. So let me just kind of give you an overview. My dad's family is very educated, very family oriented, very nurturing. And everybody on his side of the family is college educated. So it was never a question for me, are you going to college? Yeah. It's which one, right? Whereas on my mom's side of the family, that was not something that was focused on or that showed a whole lot of worth. So I knew early on with spending time with my dad's family, what they did and what they valued, and then spending time with my mom's family, which was in the hood and living through generational curses and challenges of poverty and drug use that ran through the bloodline, that when I was achieving and following in the path that my dad was setting for me, it was counter to what my mom's family was doing. So I knew early on that I was different and that I felt misunderstood because I was doing things that were not necessarily foreign to them, but that they didn't put a lot of they didn't put a lot of work on, a lot of value on. So that's where it started. And I think it just evolved over time and became more prevalent to me because I was the kid that noticed everything. And I was successful without being loud. And what I mean by that is that I was achieving my goals, I was meeting expectations, but I didn't bring attention to myself in a way that would make people around me feel a type of way. But I had to celebrate my own wins. My dad celebrated my wins because if I were to say anything in my other environment, it would feel like, bragging. Right, exactly. So I knew early on, because of the emphasis that my dad put on school and just how good I was at it, that was very different than what my
mom's side was.
Exactly.
Let me see what mine says. How do you heal generational trauma that is not talked about? And before we started recording, we were talking about the secrets and how the back of her book actually says we are as sick as our secrets. So I think for me, it's really communication. Like now I'm big on, oh no, we gonna talk about this. What happened? When? Like, is it something that I need to be concerned about? I think that's the main thing is like sweeping stuff under the rug versus let's just get it out on the table and then we can kind of heal from being
seen.
Because there's not really a lot that you can do if everybody's sweeping stuff under the rug.
But you have to think about the era and the generation of the people that raised you.
That's true.
When you think about your parents, when you think about your grandparents or your aunts or uncle or whoever took on the responsibility of rearing you, they came from a generation where we didn't talk about certain things in Black families.
That's true.
Right? A lot of stuff was taboo. Mental health, certain issues, illnesses, diseases, even, sexuality. Like there were so many things that were taboo. So a lot of that, what I call inherited lies, that generational trauma, is because we learned those patterns from people who did not want to talk about things out loud because it made them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that is the case, but figuring out how to navigate through the uncomfortable, I think
that's the journey.
Yeah. And everybody, and understanding that, they did live in a different time. And so they did the best they could with what they had and what they knew. And so I'm always, as I'm on my own journey in life, I'm like, you're not the only one with a journey. You're not the only one healing. You're not the only one navigating life. So giving people grace.
So in your journey, do you try to encourage people to get therapy or mental health treatment? Because in Black families, that is still a very taboo subject. We do not like to address mental health. I know when I was growing up, and I'm a little bit older than you, but I know when I was growing up, my family used to say, "Oh, girl, go pray about it. You all right, go pray about it." Well, God created therapists too to help us through all of the emotions that we aren't equipped to deal with. And, so that has been part of my journey too, is helping people understand that addiction is as much of a mental health issue as it is a disease. But our journey in African American families is that we don't talk about how important it is to get treatment for mental health issues. And that's what keeps us stuck, and that's what keeps us stifled. Because yes, we pray, and God He answers all right in His due time, but He also provides us resources,
yes,
for you to take advantage of what it is that you need. So
well, this game is available if y'all want to play. browngirlscan.org. They are on pre-order right now. You can go and you can grab you a game.
Babies should have their mother's milk running through their veins. When I was born, I had heroin swimming in my veins instead. But that's not why I'm dope.
I really didn't know about drugs, so I didn't know what to look at. And I don't think she was so far gone at that time. She was not, in fact.
I don't ever think she wanted to be an addict. I think she settled for being one. And I say that because what incarceration does is it isolates people and it puts you in a box.
Fit into this equation with me.
Let's get into this.
Okay.
So when did you pen it? When did you write it? How did it come to be?
Oh, girl. Okay. So I actually wrote it in 2019. It came to fruition. It was published in 2019. But prior to that, I tried to write this book 3 times. And I failed over a period of about a decade because there were so many challenges that encompassed writing something that was so emotionally heavy. And some of the things that I ran into, and I realize now that it didn't come into fruition when I was originally trying to do it, is because the story was still being told. There was so many things that happened and transpired and that I was able to talk about or discuss that had not happened when I was initially trying to write the book. So I think God was not telling me no, but he was just saying not now, not yet, because so many things had to transpire in order for this story to have the depth that it ended up having. And so that was a thing. And then I remember another time when I was convinced that I was ready, and I had approached my mentor and several people that were working with her, and I had given them like a little mini manuscript, right? It wasn't a whole manuscript, but maybe a chapter or 2, just to get a feel for how they would guide me or what I needed to do. And it never went anywhere. It sat on somebody's desk and never moved, and it was forgotten about. And so I was frustrated by that, because here I was trying to move and hear the voice of God telling me to, write the story and do this thing, because it had been piercing, in my chest. It's one of those things that won't go away. And here was my second attempt. And then nothing. So then finally I called my mentor. This was fast forward about a decade. Okay. And then I called my mentor again, and I was like, she had written about 20 books at that point. So I was like, hey, I need your help. I'm writing this book. I have to write this book. Help me. And so we agreed to have breakfast, and we went, and I had a full outline. I'm talking about chapters, titles.
That's good.
Everything, right. And I had the name of the chapters before I'd written a word. Because when I finally got serious about it, you know how if you have a niece or nephew or a kid and they tap you on your shoulder and they're like, Auntie, I want some candy. You're like, hold on, just a minute. I felt like God tapping me on my shoulder, like saying, now, come on. Right. And so I grabbed my phone and I just started typing, and the names of the chapters just started coming like a flood. Like I couldn't even type them fast enough because it was like I was trying to give birth to something, and I just couldn't keep up. So that's kind of how it started. It started as a failure about over 15 years ago when I originally started, and then kind of having people not being interested or not being guided in the right way until after so much more had transpired and I had grown and matured and kind of figured out some of the process, and I knew exactly who to call. So then in 2019,
that's amazing.
Thank you. It took a minute.
So how long was the writing process? Like once you say, okay, now's the time.
Okay, you're not going to believe it.
I probably will.
But like I said, I was ready to birth something. So when I actually got ready to sit down and write it, my thoughts and my emotions were going faster than I could actually put on the, on the computer screen. I wrote this book from beginning to end in 5 weeks. From beginning to end in 5 weeks because I was ready. I was ready.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it was a therapeutic healing process because I was strung out on the floor several times. Like, Lord, because it's so emotionally rich, right? I had to kind of relive some of the things that were hard to discuss, but it healed me though, because I was able to let it out and then communicate what the perils of addiction look like. And it was raw, and I was truthful and raw because I wanted people to understand, no, we're not going to sugarcoat this because
that's what we need.
This is what happens, and this is how it affects not just the addict, but the children of the addict and everybody else around them. So it took me 5 weeks, and I have to thank my husband because he was so amazing and so instrumental because he allowed me that space to be in that creative mode to write. And he was just like, do your thing. Let us know when you come up for air. And so it worked out. So I was probably the worst at, cooking and cleaning and doing all the things during that time. But when I birthed it, it was like I had literally had a baby because I felt free, I felt relieved, and I could just, worry about what else came after that. Yeah. But the process of birthing it was done 5 weeks.
That's crazy. I remember my first book was a memoir, and it was about my parents passing away. I think I started penning it probably when I was like 18, my senior year in high school. And then it was heavy because, life, you have to relive those moments. Exactly. And so I just remember being like, I want to write the book before I forget the details. You know what I mean? I want to write the book while I still remember, what happened and how it happened and what I remember, like those minute kind of, well, no, she called me. She was at the hospital, and I wanted to write it.
The details, like you said, all of the things that make it real.
Yeah, and so I had to put mine on the shelf several times, just because, from a child's perspective, it was hard.
Yes, it is.
It was hard. It was a lot of tears. It was a lot of calling my grandma, asking her, well, what do you remember? And like that was another thing is. It was written from my perspective, but like hearing like my grandma talk about losing her daughter, just a different vantage point. My aunt talking about what she remembers about her sister. And so,
it's a lot to inhale.
Yes, just writing. If you are looking at this, if you're listening and you are interested in writing a memoir, just know, that it does make you relive moments that you really try to forget
or suppress. Yeah. So, that's the beauty, though. That's the beauty, though, because you were able to, and I love what you said. You said so that I wouldn't forget the details because, boy, the make it so poignant and so relevant and so intentional, right? And so when you're calling your grandmother and you're asking her, hey, what do you remember? What do you remember? You're learning so many things about your mom that you didn't know, but you're also grieving a side of you that didn't get to experience that with her. I know I went through that process. Because I called my aunt and a couple of other people, and they were telling me different things about her that I never would have known, never got to experience, because my extension of you was in jail a lot of the times, or as an addict that was strung out on the street, and I'm talking about so strung out that you didn't even recognize me. My mom wasn't somebody they used. She belonged to the addiction. Wow. Right? So when you say that you call your grandmother and you're like, hey, what do you remember about your daughter? It takes you to a place of grief that is almost unexplainable because it's something that you'll never experience. So that's really good that you got it done, though.
I got it done. we got it done.
That's good.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to begin. The mansion. What other details? You know what tugged at my heartstring? Was when your mom came. There was just so many moments.
To the wedding.
when she came to the wedding, but also when you were a little girl and she took you to go help her steal. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
For that to be a memory.
Yes. Right. Now, there weren't many, right? Because of her condition, but for that to be one of them, right, is pretty traumatic. And because she was an addict, of course, she had to do anything and everything to support her habit. And I say this all the time. I don't think my mom wanted to be an addict. She settled for being one. Because nobody wakes up one day and decides that they want to be an addict, right? But life gets heavy. And so when you have no other way of coping and the world constantly tells you no, then it's a default coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have a lot of memorable moments with her, but I do recall, and for people who haven't read the book or know what you're talking about, I was playing at my aunt's house, or I was actually in the kitchen at my aunt's house, and she came and got me and was like, hey, let's go for a ride. And I was excited because I thought, oh, we're about to do something. You know, hey, I knew something was a little off because of the way she was acting and walking and just kind of like in a hurry. And, you know, it was a lot of, you know, nuanced details that would let me know something was a little bit off. But
the van
kids crave that attention from their parents. And we're resilient because no matter how many times they hurt us, we forgive over and over and over. So despite whatever happened in the past, I wanted that moment, whatever it was about to be.
Yeah.
So I went with her and we got in this white van. And that alone was weird.
When you was writing about it, I was like, okay, that's interesting.
It was so interesting. I was like, where in the world did she get this van? Whose van is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this stuff? And it was clearly somebody's cleaning van. Yeah, it was like buckets and mops and all kind of things in the back. And I was like, okay, this is very weird. So anyway, we get in the van. We go about a mile or two down the road to this store. It puts me in the mind of like a well, I would say back then you probably don't remember this, but a story we used to call Levine's or Mervin's or something like that. That's what the store reminded me of. And so anyway, we go in there and we walking down this aisle and there was a guy sitting at the counter and, you know, he was a worker and he's just looking around, like just monitoring the store. And she walked in with this kid, looks like she's shopping for the kid.
Yeah.
And then, girl, I will never forget, we walked past this aisle and she looked down the aisle and then we got to the next aisle and she walked down that aisle and then she went and stood in the middle of the aisle and she pushed a pile of clothes out like this and just pushed the rack out and there was clothes in the middle and she just grabbed this huge bundle of clothes and stuck it under her shirt to look like she was pregnant. And so I was like, okay, clearly she's done this before. Right? This is not new. Yeah. And then she walked right out of that store and was holding her shirt as if she was like caressing a newborn baby. But she was trying to keep the clothes from falling. But what I realized is I was there as a prop to make this story look believable. Yeah. That here was this woman walking in with a kid shopping and then, you know, a pregnant lady and another kid. Oh, you know, who's to think that anything was wrong? But she walked in there. We were in there so quick and so fast. And I was like, what just happened? What just happened? And we got in the van and we drove right back down the street and she dropped me off at my aunt's house in the projects. And that was it. So she didn't come to spend time with me. She came to come use me as a prop for her to steal to support her habit. So I didn't have a lot of moments with her, but that was one of them. So the trauma of like, is it that bad? You know, to where, I mean, all sense of consciousness is just gone to where, you know, you put your kid in harm's way. But like I said, addiction is a mental health issue.
And something else you said in the book, you said, I can't remember if you said it was like she was a ghost.
Walking around so she was an addict that we called Rose. She was a ghost, like walking around she was a ghost that we called Rose, walking around in this ghost-like body. I can't remember my exact words, but it was like she was a ghost because she was just a shell of who she actually was, a shell of a person. And you could see the deterioration, and everything that she was doing was so unconscious in the sense of how it was affecting the people around her, but just to meet a need. And it was just so crazy, just because when we, and I say this too, because addicts are, society likes to categorize them and ostracize people, right? And we put addicts in a box, and we call them other, right? So for my mom, the challenges of trying to climb out of that addiction to reacclimate back into society just became too much, because when people, she got so many, went to jail 100 times and got felonies for trying to support her habit. Well, when you get a felony, you can't get a job. You can't get a job, then you can't get housing. Can't get housing, you live on the street. So then you get no after no after no, and then you have nothing to live for, no source of income, no way to provide for yourself. Effect. It's a domino effect, and then you don't have a support system. So the only thing you know to do is medicate, with drugs. So I say that because she became other, and so she was just, her name was Rose, but she was just like a ghost walking around in Rose's body. It was just,
and that was something else. Witness. Yeah, that was interesting. You went from calling her mom in some instances to Rose, and I was like, to have that.
There's a dichotomy.
That distinction between those moments where it's like, this ain't my mom. You know what I'm saying? This is
Rose.
Yeah.
Right. And that was so intentional, because there were moments like originally when she came to get me from the house to go to the store, when I was like, Mom is here. But then once we got there and I realized what was happening, I was like, oh, here's Rose up to her old tricks again. And it puts you in perspective the two sides of her that there were for me, but neither was good. In the sense that there was never any real nurturing, never any real sense of love. I know she loved me because I was her child, but to feel the love is a different thing. But what was clear was that she loved her fixes and her and the drugs. Now, like I said, I don't think she wanted to be an addict. She settled for being one, and it got to a point to where without it, she probably would have died a lot sooner, because her body needed it to function. So I don't necessarily blame her for the mental health catastrophe that she caused and her lack of ability to show love as a result of the addiction. But it was very clear to me that she was two different people. In some moments she would be Rose, just like when I would go visit her in the jail. And those moments when she would appear to be healthy and sane and whole and interested in what I was doing at school or whatever activities, there were moments and flashes of mom. But then the moment that she was free and was able to do whatever else, she didn't choose to be mom or choose to be kid. She chose to do Rose, to be Rose.
Something else you said, I'm sorry, that book is so good, y'all. Make sure you get it, read it. You said that she did a lot of things for quick. I just remember that stanza in that paragraph. It was like, she came and got me quick
for a quick minute to meet a quick need, to meet a quick change. Everything was quick because it was the insatiable drive to get her fix. So everything was quick. She'd come into my aunt's house for a quick bite to eat, whatever she could find. She'd come get me for a quick minute, like she did to go to the store, to steal, to do whatever. Everything was quick and fast because that's what drugs gave her: a quick high, a quick fix, a quick moment to release and escape from whatever reality she was doing. Her life was built on a series of quick moments, of quick everything, because I got to figure out how to get this next high. I got to figure out how to get to the next destination, to the next whatever, to get exactly what I need. And to all of that was orchestrated purposefully for it to happen fast. There was nothing that she did that resulted in spending any period of time in solace or solitude except for when she was incarcerated. When she was in the streets, everything was
quick. And so did you notice was there a noticeable difference when she was incarcerated versus when she was out?
Yes. And that's what pains you and terrorizes you more than anything because you could see glimpses of who she was really inside and who she was fighting so hard. Well, what the drugs were fighting so hard to suppress. Because one of the things that I wrote about this extensively, and you might remember this, that I could never figure out was that she served the longest time, 6 years in the state penitentiary. Drug free.
Yes.
Right? So you have free thought, free will, you know, to have small experiences in jail. And though it's not much, but the freedom of being able to read a book, play cards, watch TV, do, you know, those things that people do on an everyday basis. And how she was able to survive, and well, forced to survive because she had to be rehabilitating herself in order to be released, right? But you went 6 years in state prison without drugs, only to get released, and within a 10-month time frame, look nothing like the person that she was. So what pains me most about that is when I would visit her and you could tell that she was quick-witted, that she had a sense of humor, that she loved, you know, girly things and was pretty feminine in a lot of ways, things I would have never known otherwise. And so you get glimpses of who she was or who she could have been. And for none of that to fully blossom. It's so sad. Because when they always say that the most beautiful things, the most beautiful people, the most beautiful ideas are, and one of the richest places in the world is in a graveyard. So all of that died with her. Her ideas, her opinions, her love, her quick wit, her dreams, her goals that never came to fruition. So it was hard trying to see the two sides of her and getting glimpses of who she could have been, but only fully being able to encapsulate who she chose to become.
Now, how did those experiences shape? Because I remember in the book you said, you'll be doggone if you was going to end up like Rose. How did that shape who you are and how you decided to live your life post high school?
Oh, it started before high school. Let me be clear. And two main reasons, right? Number one, I just saw up close, because I lived this huge oxymoron. And what I mean by that is that I lived in the hood. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, everybody say, oh, they lived in the hood. No, we lived in the hood. Like in actual Section 8, in actual projects. And it was embarrassing. Like when my husband came to pick me up for a date, he came to the projects, to my sister's apartment. Like that's like hood. And I'm saying that to say that I saw up close just the devastation of what poverty and drugs did. And it wasn't just my mama. It ran through the bloodline. And something that I don't say extensively in the book was that she had a twin brother who also was a 30-year addict.
Wow.
So it was something in the bloodline that made us that much more susceptible to drug use. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no, this is not it for me.
Stops right here.
This is not it for me. But the reason why I was able to make those contrasts so vividly is because of my dad. My dad put me in private school. That was the biggest, like I said, oxymoron. I was living in the hood, going to private school.
In your plaid skirt.
In my plaid skirt, carrying a clarinet and ice skates. Like it was the weirdest thing. But my dad was showing me another side of the world that was a lot bigger than the world that I was actually in. So I was able to make those contrasts, and I knew early on, this ain't it. And we're not going to do this. So I learned way before high school that everything that I did, I was purposeful and intentional about. And school was my way out. That was what I was good at, is what I excelled at, and I was going to make darn sure, like, I went to school somewhere. And I'll never forget, I went off to school my freshman year. Great. I came home that summer after my freshman year, and I got a job at the mall, and I went to community college and took a class or two, but I still was in the hood, and I was like, y'all ain't got to worry about me. No more. And I promise, when I went back to school for that sophomore year, I haven't been home since.
Wow.
Done. I was like,
so you haven't been back to Texas?
Oh, I've been back to Texas, but I hadn't been back to like that environment.
Okay.
I was just like, it felt like quicksand.
Yeah.
Like every step you take, you were just sinking and you couldn't get one foot in front of the other to kind of create any kind of stability. And I was like, no, this is it. So I was very intentional about doing something different. My family was still there. My grandmother was still there. So yeah, I would go visit and, you know, how y'all doing and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like planting my feet or staying for any extensive period of time, yeah, no.
So how did you, so we get to college and then how did you meet Mr. Kevin? How did that come about?
Weird. And that's real quick, but it's a cute little story. It's quick, but so y'all, when I went to school, I think I don't know. I don't have the words to describe. It was interesting because they have this thing, I think, where people prey on freshmen. Yeah. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you knew, and everybody's trying to figure out, who are you? Where you from? What's going on? So it was a whole lot of that. But I had a good friend who went to school with me, and his name is Dion. And he played football at my high school, and I was a cheerleader. But me and him were really close. We were really good friends. So when we went to school, we ended up at the same school. I was like, oh, Dion. So we were hanging around together a lot, and people thought initially that we were dating. And we're like, no. That's my brother. Like, we are tight. Yeah. Like, his girlfriend was my really good friend. Yeah. So anyway, he was on the football team and Kevin was on the football team. And I was sitting in the cafeteria one day and he came up to me and he said, hey, I got this guy I want you to meet. And I kid you not, I looked at him and I was like, I'm not meeting nobody's homeboy, roommate, brother today. No. Because, you know, it had become a joke, right? Yeah. Because it was like, I was meeting so many new people and I was like, no, I'm not meeting nobody today. And my friend Dion was like, no, you trust me, you gotta meet him. He was like, so he started going into all these accolades and she's like, oh, he's 3-time defensive back of the year and 3-time All-American. And I was like, okay.
Such a girl thing, like, all right, what's that mean?
Okay. Good for him, you know? And so I guess he thought that was supposed to lure me to be like, yeah, let me meet. But then it made me even that much more confused because I was like, well, if he all that, then that means he come with a whole lot. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, no. And I told my friend, yeah, no. So he goes over and he goes, you see the guy over there in that white jersey? And I looked and I was like, yeah. So he told me his name and he was like, that's my boy. I want you to meet him again. I was like, whatever. He goes over there. He says something to Kevin. I don't know. And then he came back and he's like, he wants to meet you this week. Again. No. I just told you I'm not. So my friend Dion wouldn't let it go. And girl, it was so funny because that day was probably like Monday or something like that. And he came back and he said, okay, you can come over on like Wednesday or Thursday. He said you got to clean up. And I hollered and felt like, I was like, it take him 3 days to clean up. And so 3 days to clean up. So anyway, it was just like a little joke. And so sure enough, girl, I went back to my room. I didn't think anything else about it. I was, the semester was just starting. So I was getting in my groove and my classes. And out of nowhere, sure enough, on Thursday, Dion knocked on my door. And I was like, who is this? And he was like, come on, you ready to go? And I was like, go where? Where are we going? He was like, I told you, we going to meet. I was like, boy, I was not. Yeah, I was not, it. Right. But we went. And so the rest is history.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
It's
and
a funny little story.
How has that journey been? Like you being an NFL wife,
Girl.
And now with your son being at Colorado University. How is that? How is it?
God is good.
He
Do you hear
is.
me? God is good. I have to say I never doubted that Kevin was going to be successful and that he was going to go to the next level. I mean, he literally embodies hard work and humbleness all in one person. And so I never doubted that. But I just, of course, you don't know what that journey and what that path looks like. But I remember the year he got drafted, or the year he signed, which was 1997, he was actually in my dorm room when Jerry Jones and the Cowboys called. And he was in my dorm room, and they were telling him about their plans and what they were going to do, their intent on signing him. And he did that. And he was a rookie in 1997. And at that time, I was still in school because Kevin is 4 years older than me. So I committed to finishing my degree, and then I'll join you on this path.
Go on.
Right. When we get done. Now, beauty for us is that our university is an hour and a half away from Dallas. And I'm from Dallas, and, you know, Kevin's first team was the Dallas Cowboys. And so I was able to go to all of his games on the weekends and still be very much a part of his first couple of years. And actually, it wasn't until after I graduated that he got a call that he was being traded. And he called, and he was like, "Oh, we finna go to New Orleans." And I said, "What?" And I thought he was joking at first. He was like, "No, it's for real. We're going to New Orleans." And so after like this whole harassment thing, because he's a practical jokester, I'm like, "Kevin, stop playing." Like, what? And he was like, "No, for real.
For real.
We're going to New Orleans." Like, what? They were the worst team in the NFL at the time. I was like, the Saints. I love New Orleans. The food, the culture, the people, the architecture, beautiful. But the team was terrible at that time. So I was like, oh, Lord. So anyway, long story short, we got traded and we went there. And that's where my real, I would say, experience as an NFL wife started, because the first few years I was in school and kind of trying to get adjusted to what my goals were. But after we got to New Orleans, that's when I realized the weight and the heaviness of what being a professional athlete was like, because NFL mean not for long. Right.
I've never heard that.
That's what it means. That's what we say in NFL community. It mean not for long. So I think what they carry is that you're only as good as what you've done for me lately. So no matter how well you're doing, or how, you may want to be there, or how committed you are to the franchise, it's all about production and how they value you, how they see and value you, and where you fit in their mold. And that changes with the day, and with the staff, and with the team, and with injuries, and a lot of different things that you can't control. So living year to year, wondering if you have a job or not, is a hard thing to carry, right? So then that was a different kind of pain than the pain of the mom and the pain of the, the circumstances in the environment. So then you have this picture of success where you're doing well, but you're also carrying this weight of trying to maintain the level of success. Now, I never doubted for a second that Kevin wouldn't have a place somewhere, because that's just who he is. But being an NFL wife comes with a lot of challenges, because nobody prepares you for the backlash. Right. That is so undeserving. Yeah. Because they're people too, right? They make mistakes.
With feelings.
They have feelings, and, and all the other, political things and financial things that go along with carrying that title. Yeah. Nobody prepares you for it. And you can't unless you experience it, right? And you fall a couple times and then you figure it out. Yep. But I think the hardest part for me was knowing that people put your value on how many points or tackles or interceptions or whatever you can make, not knowing or understanding anything about you, and reducing your worth to just that. Yeah. But I will say I have met some amazing women along the way. I have forged some really beautiful friendships. And my best friend now is a former NFL wife. And she texted me earlier and said, I'm in town for the game. Her son is on the team too. She's my god baby. So we're going to go hang out too. But I met some beautiful people along the way. But we've also learned some really valuable lessons about faith and worth and value and perseverance and all the things.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. What's been the most exciting moment, like in football, whether it's NFL or currently?
Oh, girl.
Because I know it's got to be.
God is good.
Seeing your husband on the field and now seeing your son.
I'm so
it's like you go through the all the different emotions.
So many emotions. Because just as a mom, to see my boys fulfill their dream, right? That's all you ever hope for, you know. And whatever that looks like for them and whatever their journey is and whatever impact they make or don't make, to say that they were put in a position to be able to do it, just is something so special that you can't take away. But most fun or important or memorable moment, there's so many. But I will say this, I'll put it this way. One of the most memorable moments was when, hold on, let me get the year together. This kid will be like, I remember everything. But I believe it was 2002. And we had gotten traded, I told you, to the New Orleans Saints. But in his second year, he suffered a very brutal injury, neck injury, where he went in to tackle somebody and his body went limp and he was temporarily paralyzed. Wow. Scariest moment of my life. Yeah. I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter and I was like, this baby about to come right now. Because I was so stressed out. And so he was temporarily paralyzed and suffered a devastating neck injury. And that was really scary. But I'm saying that to say that a few months after that, the Saints decided to release him for medical reasons, medical purposes. I think they just didn't want to take the risk, on him hurting himself again and, all of that. So Kevin spent about a 10-month time period in that entire offseason going to specialist after specialist after specialist, trying to get an understanding or clarity on if it's worth it, if it was worth the risk, and if it was something that he needed to do or try again, or was God shutting this door, right? And I will never forget, we went to, we were seeing the Dallas Cowboys doctor at that time who was checking him regularly. And he had traveled out of state to North Carolina and Alabama and a couple of other places getting second opinions from world-renowned, physicians. And nobody ever definitively said no. They said, well, it's a 50-50 chance. So with that being said, we were like, okay, so he had been doing all this rehab. He had been released. So in a 10-month period, he had not trained with a team. He had been working out and training on his own with his trainer and doing his own thing, keeping himself in football shape. But he had not been with a team or in contact with a team. And all of this was because he was still trying to get medically cleared to play. So girl, I will never forget. It was probably mid-September or the end of September, and probably about 3 weeks into the football season in 2002. The season had already started. And we were going to see the Cowboys doctor for the last time. And this was going to be the moment when he made the decision, like, okay, am I going to play or am I not? And I sat in the car because that's how quick I thought
it was going to be.
It was going to be. And so he's like, don't worry about it. I'll be right back. Just circle the block. And I was like, okay. And I got the circling. And so then he wasn't coming out. And I was like, what is going on? So I parked the car and I'm like, golly, he's been in there for a long time. So then I start getting nervous. I'm like, okay, he's been in there for a long time. And then he came out and he was like, what doctor was calling it at that time, I think he was calling it like a signal. that he was seeing a signal on his spine. And he had seen that signal all of these months that Kevin was seeing him and rehabbing and all that. Girl, and I kid you not. Kevin came out of that office and he said, he don't see it. And I said, what? And he said he don't see the signal. And he cleared him to play that day. Shateria, that was Monday. It hit the waiver wire on Tuesday. The Atlanta Falcons called on Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
He was in Atlanta on Thursday. He practiced.
I got chills.
One time, and then he got on that field on Sunday Night Football, a return because he got injured on Sunday Night Football in front of the whole world. They paused the game. They kept replaying the injury. He stepped out on the field on Sunday Night Football, and one play later, he made an interception. Girl, I was jumping up and down and screaming. So when you talk about joyous moments and the power of God and healing,
Yes,
that is one of them, because we thought it was probably over, you know? And so to see him go through that process, and I will never forget when the Saints called, he called me and he was talking about his clothes, and he was so worried about his clothes. And they called him for a workout, and he didn't know what to do. And so when they came back in there and they told him that they were going to offer him, I remember him calling Dion. And he said, Dion said, hey man, God does not give us a spirit of fear.
That's right.
So he said that was the motivation he needed. And so when they came back in, he agreed to sign his 1-year deal, and he did. And then that Sunday, on Sunday Night Football,
he was out there playing
and got an interception.
Oh my goodness.
It's a crazy story, but that was one of the most joyous moments because it was so much bigger than football.
Yeah.
At that moment, it was life and healing and power of God. That's what that was about.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was definitely one. And then when I think about my boys, is our first year here in Colorado, and it was the very first game of the season in Colorado at all. We went through so much scrutiny, so many things, but like, what are y'all gonna do? So much doubt. And girl, we were playing at TCU in Texas, and we kicked the ball off, and my son was on kickoff team, and he ran down there and made the very first tackle of the game.
Yay.
And so I was screaming and hollering and so excited for him. So it has definitely brought us a whole lot of joy. It's equal parts sacrifice, but a whole lot of joy. So that's what we do.
I love it.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Sunday to Sunday.
Crazy. And mind you, he got hurt Sunday Night Football. It was on national television. We were playing the Washington Redskins, and they kept pausing the game. They kept going to commercial and replaying it over and over and over. And like I said, I was home in Dallas. I didn't make the trip because I was literally a week away from delivery. And so I couldn't travel anymore. So I was home watching the game, and they kept playing it over and over again. And I was, nervous and freaking out, and kept trying to look at my phone, waiting for the Saints organization to call, to say what was going on. And finally, it took them about 45 minutes to an hour, but they finally called and was like, okay, he's fine. He has movement, whatever. But I'm going to tell you something else. They were so afraid that he was paralyzed that they took him to the hospital with his helmet and shoulder pads and everything still on. And when he went in to do the scan and everything, all of that was still on because they didn't want to move him. And so finally, when he started getting feeling and stuff back in his hands and feet, and they realized that he was okay, they cut the jersey off of him, and we still have that jersey to this day, ripped up and cut up to show, look what God can do, But that was how serious they thought that the injury was. So to go from that, where they were afraid that he was permanently paralyzed, to a moment on Sunday Night Football when he was able to redeem himself, is just I mean, I don't even have the words. I was screaming so loud. And I know everybody around me was like, what is wrong with this crazy lady?
So funny.
I'm like, y'all just don't know. Y'all just don't know.
And that is the beauty in details. It's because if you don't know the details, you don't understand why I'm yelling or why I'm so happy. So
Exactly. See, you see that? Why those details matter.
Yes, they make the story.
They do. They make the story.
They make it what it is.
Yep. So that was special.
Yes. So tell us about the new book.
Okay.
The new book called
Liar in Stilettos.
Liar in Stilettos.
Yes. So Liar in Stilettos is a continuation in a lot of ways of Dope Girl, but in a much different context. And what I mean by that is in Dope Girl, which there is a second edition coming out in a couple of weeks. But in Liar in Stilettos, Dope Girl, let me back up. So Dope Girl was about the perils of addiction, the ugliness, the heaviness, how it affects us as kids, as people, just as a culture as a whole, and what that trauma was like. And then Liar in Stilettos is the heel girl. Okay, now we've done this. Now we've walked through this trauma.
Love it.
Now here's the heel girl. But I tell this with a whole lot of big sister energy because it's a conversation that we have to have that we don't want to talk about out loud. And I'm not just talking about healed from a trauma. I'm talking about healed in all of the ways women devalue ourselves and in all of the ways we adhere to stereotypes and lack of self-esteem and self-worth based off what societal narratives tell us that we're supposed to have. Right. So I go into depth. It's like a conversation I'm having with you right now with a lot of big sister energy. So it's going to call you out, but it's going to call you home too. Right. In the sense that it will allow you to put a mirror up to yourself to say, okay, do I do this or I'm doing these behaviors and here's how to fix it. And this is coming from this place. Yeah. Because this book was birthed from thousands of conversations with so many women. From extensive research and from understanding just that real human element of what it's like to be a woman in this world. Yeah. Specifically, a Black woman in this world and what that heaviness looks like. Because they will categorize us as angry, as uneducated baby mamas, and all of the things, but we are the contradiction. The majority of us are the contradiction, which is proof that our ancestors' wildest dreams didn't die with them, right? But society will tell you otherwise. So Liar in Stilettos is a continuation about the trauma, but it's now the heel girl trauma and how you get through it. And here's what I do now, because we no longer get to make excuses for how we were raised. Yeah. And the behaviors that you have because, oh, my family was like this. That hurt. And that those burdens are yours to carry. What you gonna do now? At this point, you gotta healing is a choice. Yeah. Yeah. Healing is a choice. So that's what Liar in Stilettos is about.
I love it. I cannot wait to get it.
Thank you.
And read it. Just like I read this one.
I'm so excited about that. Thank you so much for taking the time to read it.
I loved it.
And I think what I love about Dope Girl, which I think I have to say, is that I want people to understand, though addiction is my story, I tried to write this in a way that you will find yourself in this book, whether addiction has anything to do with you or not. Yep. Right? Whether you have loved somebody who didn't necessarily love themselves, whether you've had to live with other people's choices, whether you've had to be as sick as or secrets that we didn't want to talk about. In one way or another, you will find yourself in this book, whether you know anybody or have had any experience with addiction at all. Yeah. So
if you're looking, you can relate to this book in some kind of way.
Thank you.
What if somebody is going through something similar to what you went through as a child? What would your advice be?
Ooh, for that child? For the child, because that's layered. That's a layered question now. As a child, I would say I want somebody to understand and know that it's not their fault. That adults are supposed to be the ones that know better, but they don't always do, right? And adults make decisions based off their experiences. So if you're a child, for a child that has had to dissect and go through some of the things and the perils and the things that I saw and went through, which is brutally devastating in so many ways. And I mean, I gave you the details about the bathroom and the overdosing and seeing her freebase in the kitchen and Miss Walker's house and the whole thing. Is that it's important for that child to understand that it's not their fault. That when somebody decides to use drugs, they have no control over how their brain chemistry is going to interact with that substance. And it ultimately alters who they are, how they think, their logic, their cognitive reasoning, like dissonance, like all of the things that allow us to make educated decisions or conscious decisions or heartfelt decisions. So you have to just understand and know that the person that is on drugs from a child's perspective is not who they really are, and that it's not your fault. I remember my godmother used to try to explain it to me like this. When I was young and trying to figure out what was going on and why her appearance was so drastic and why she looked so bad, my godmother would just say, well, baby, she's sick. And I'm like, okay, and I could understand sick. I can rationalize that. But as a 10-year-old, I'm like, okay, well, why y'all didn't take her to the doctor? Oh, where's the hospital? You know, like, well, what's going on?
Medicine.
Right. What's happening? Y'all, somebody fix it. Somebody do something. So it's hard to dissect because when you're sick as a kid, somebody gives you cough syrup or, you know, a cool towel when you have a fever or whatever it is to help you heal. But when you see nobody helping them heal, then the word sick gets real convoluted. But I think the biggest thing for a child to understand is that regardless of what they can dissect or not, what they can internalize is the pain that they internalize, the abandonment, the rejection that they internalize. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Whew, that is a lot.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's a lot.
Wow.
This has been fun, though. This is fun. This has been fun. I've really enjoyed this. And I really appreciate you taking the time to read. Of course. Do you mind telling me what I always like to ask people, because there were so many things that were touched on. What did you, if you could walk away with anything from the book, what would you walk away with?
I think my walk away or takeaway would be to carve your own path, like to not let circumstances that were dealt to you or given to you kind of make you go in a direction. You have to make up in your mind that this is not what I want. This is, I'm gonna do the opposite, or you know, I love my mom, but I want to go in a different way, a different path. That's not for me. So I think that was my biggest takeaway is seeing you as a person and who you have become and what you've accomplished in spite of.
You never would have known.
Never would have known. So that to me was the most like, dang, you really can
rise,
make your own, make your life what you want it to be.
But like I mentioned in the book, I'm really glad. That's a really, really good point. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because one of my favorite words is intentional. Because you have to be intentional, because when you're growing up in circumstances that I grew up in, there are not a lot of opportunities to do something different. And when you do something different, because it's not the norm, it's that much more difficult, and people frown upon it, right? You are looked at crazy. But you have to be very intentional. That's why I say when people say, oh, I made a mistake. A mistake is something you do once. Right? And we fix it. But a character flaw is something that we do repeatedly. And when you're doing things that put people and put children in harm's way, that's not a mistake. That's a pattern. Right. And it's up to us to recognize that you have to be very intentional about making different choices. And I will say this, I did a show a few weeks ago, and my good friend that I did that show with, had a very similar upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
But he unfortunately fell into the drug game on both sides of it, where he started using the drugs and then he started selling the drugs. And he asked me on that show, how did I turn out like this and you turned out like that? And I kept telling him it's because I was intentional. But besides the intentionality, it's support system.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have people around you who support you, or anybody around you that's even trying to do anything different, it makes that path that much harder. Because if everybody in your circle, in your family, are falling victim to all of these generational cycles and patterns, then anything that you do counter to that is not easy, right? So for what I told him was that I was blessed that I had my dad.
Yeah.
I don't know how the universe is weird in the way that total opposites attract. Because when I tell you my mom and dad are total opposites, there is no way I would have ever put them together. But the one thing she did do right
was pick your dad.
Was pick him. And so what I will say about that is that intentionality is your ability to do something different. But it's easier if you have a support system. It's easier if you have a support system. But if you don't, then you just have to grind your butt off until you do something different. And that means being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like we talked about right before we started, you feel driven to move and do different things, but that takes a lot of courage because growth is uncomfortable.
Say it.
It's uncomfortable.
Last question that I always ask every guest.
Okay.
I want you to finish this statement. I am proof that brown girls can blank.
Ooh.
And everybody always pauses.
Ooh, wait a minute, because it's
loaded. Yeah.
Yes, it's loaded. It's layered. Whoa. I am proof that brown girls can have it all.
Love it.
And what I mean by that is not material things. It's we can have the peace, the mental stability, and all of the things that may have caused us friction or harm or distress or trauma in our past. But we can have the job, the kids, the stability, the business, the whatever it is that makes us feel whole without making excuses for it, right? Because our counterparts get to do whatever they want, however they want,
whenever,
no questions asked. But we have to be twice as good, twice as educated, twice as qualified. So I think that I am proof that brown girls can have it all if they're intentional.
I love it. I love it. So if you are listening, brown girls, there is proof out there in the world that you can have it all if you are intentional. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you coming. It was a pleasure.
Yes.
For sure.
All right, y'all. Until the next episode, we're out. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for vibing with us on Brown Girls Can, the podcast. If you felt this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with your girl gang. You can catch us on social media on Instagram at Brown Girls Can, the podcast, and on Facebook at Brown Girls Can. And remember, you are already everything you are becoming. So until next time, keep showing up, glowing up, and choosing you. Always remember that you can do anything.